Hey everyone, this is Craig Reese at South by Southwest. We are right in front of the Paramount Theater for the world premiere of the documentary We Feed People. I'm hoping to talk to the director, Ron Howard, on the red carpet, so let's go check it out.
We're so happy to be in Austin. The weather's beautiful and we're so excited to show the movie with the crowd.
I've been here for some screenings and it's always a great vibe, great energy.
Ron had met Jose a few years back, and I've known Jose for a while. My brother's a chef, so it was just a project came to us, and we were just so excited to tell his story.
It's just great to be representing the subject of this film, World Central Kitchen, Chef José Andrés, the work they're doing. It's kind of a case study for all of us to recognize there are a lot of different ways to help.
There's no sort of secret magical thing that we do, right? We just show up and we just start cooking, and that this is something that everybody can get involved in.
You know, like Jose says, it's like a plate of food is a plate of hope. So for people who are in, distressing situations, for them to have, a hot, healthy meal, that is something that can be, even a small, life-changing, positive moment for them.
We need to help each other. Food is medicine. We need to keep healthy. We need to keep moving.
I hope we inspire people that realize the work that they can do in their own communities, or, responding to emergencies in their own way, or join us.
Thank you all so much for this incredible film and for the work you're all doing. It's just so urgent and it's so big. There's so much of it, but it's just so inspiring that there is work that can be done, that is productive, that can be helpful. It's an amazing story for this moment. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
We can take some questions from the audience, so there are mics set up here if you'd like to line up. But Ron, if we can start with you. So when did you decide to go ahead and start this and tell the story?
Well, I kind of kept bumping into Jose and hearing his story, and I've come to various conferences, and then I would start to follow him a little bit on television and whatnot. When I first heard him talk, I don't even think World Central Kitchen exactly existed. It was sort of a couple of years after Haiti, and he was basically just describing how he got things done, and it was very entrepreneurial and exciting. And slowly but surely, I kept seeing what the organization was doing, and we started talking about him as a figure, and the folks at Nat Geo also had a relationship with Jose, and were excited about what he was accomplishing and inspired by it. And we sort of put our heads together and hinted a little bit at Jose, but he wasn't taking the bait. And finally, at an event in Washington D.C. When the UN was in session, probably 2019, I think it was either before or after the Bahamas, just right around that area, and finally we sort of actually went up and I asked Jose, could we talk seriously about making a film with you? And he said, I don't really want to make a film about me. And he pointed to this wall of photos, and he said, this is World Central Kitchen. That's a story I care about. And that was music to my ears, because Jose's a charismatic, wonderful figure, and of course the work is important and also shines a light on so many factors, the realities of contemporary life and issues that we all have to face and tackle. But I love telling stories about how people come together and get things done. Whether it's a family unit, whether it's a team, whether it's people who've worked together before or not, I'm always fascinated by that challenge and what it means and what it reflects about our capacity, our strengths, our weaknesses. And so I was thrilled that that's what he wanted to do. Now, the next thing that I just want to point out is that we got our green light to go ahead. We organized ourselves. We imagined, following them out into, many disasters. And that was the plan. And COVID hit. And it really changed sort of what we could do. But it also was clear that it was an example of sort of what World Central Kitchen had already gained in terms of its reach, its capacity. It was a well-oiled machine. You know, we went out and followed them. Obviously, Navajo. You saw New York and so forth. But I also looked around and felt like, wow, we're telling a story of an organization that can really meet challenges, and they're already great. They're really good at it. And of course, every challenge is different. And that's where it sort of dawned on us that Nate and Sam, you know, they got into it. They are documentarians. And we began to understand that what we really had was this vast amount of footage available that would tell us this origin story. How did this happen? What were the lessons learned along the way? And how did it all unfold? And so the footage we were getting was obviously going to be important as a sort of a destination, but we realized we could tell this other story because it had been so well covered by you guys, and you made the footage available to us. And so to me, that became the sort of the central mission of the movie, and I'm very grateful we had that footage. And again, thankful to Nat Geo for supporting us as we sort of discovered the way to tell the story.
And had you been doing it on behalf of World Central Kitchen? Had you been sort of filming yourselves over the years, or?
Yeah, it was a combination. You know, when I first met Jose in the early days with Alicia, who's here, and Sebastian, my colleague, who I was just in Ukraine.
They should stand up because they contributed so much footage and so many moments.
Yes.
Remarkable. It's true. I forgot. Alicia's here. Sebastian's.
Sebastian's still in Ukraine. I was just with him 2 days ago. Just flew in. You know, we met Jose like Ron did in those really early days of World Central Kitchen when it was just an idea. And we started to document it. We started to film him because he had this spark. He had this passion, the same thing that Ron saw. And we had no idea what we were going to do with it. And so over the years of just following it and becoming friends with him, we had captured various footage. And then when Hurricane Maria hit, when Jose and I went down to Puerto Rico, originally I was carrying my camera with me. I thought I could just help, you know, film some things to help tell the story, or maybe in the future cut a little video together or something. And then, so I did. I captured a bit in Puerto Rico, and then of course, as you saw, I ended up, you know, having to feed a lot of people while we were there. So, but we continued that. So Alicia and Sebastian, and we met Dan and Howie, who are here, and they started coming to capture. And so we didn't really know what we were going to do with it, but storytelling was always at the core of World Central Kitchen, I think because of my background doing documentary film work. You know, it just became part of who we were. And as you saw in the Bahamas with Sam, you know, oftentimes we're on the front lines of these situations, and we're the only ones there to report. So although we're there, obviously, first and foremost, to provide food to those that need it, we also find ourselves in this role, or with this responsibility of almost being reporters, being journalists of sorts, of like, here's what's happening, because we're the only ones there to share it. And so that sort of just became part of who we are. And so now all of our team, wherever they go, you know, you see, if you follow us on social media, you'll see dispatches from the team and photos and videos, and, you know, Sam, you know, in the front lines of a hurricane or a wildfire. And it just became the way of how we operate. And so we ended up having, because of that, just this big archive of footage that we never really expected that it would be up here on a big screen at South by Southwest, but pretty amazing to see it.
Well, it's so powerful because, you know, you hear about it, but to see it, and to see it over and over and over and over and over and again, and to kind of see it in that intimate way is just huge. So, well, I'm happy to take some questions from the audience. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Matt Reese. Mr. Howard, first off, you're an amazing filmmaker, and this was a great documentary. I just wanted to know what, you know, from your narrative career going into this as like a documentarian, what skills did you take from your narrative career and, you know, your very early career as an actor, and how did that help you know, piece together this film?
Well, thank you for that. You know, my sort of venture into documentaries was something that I went into reluctantly with a lot of trepidation and fear because I wasn't sure what I could carry over from what my life's work has been. The late great Jonathan Demme was a friend, and when I first, and a great documentarian as well as a narrative scripted director, and he encouraged me with he just kept saying, you're going to find you'll be able to apply your voice in ways, and that your experiences will count. I would say that the post-production side of what I've done, of course, means the most, because this isn't so much about building scripts. You build you do your research, you work with a team, you think about what you want to go for. The only other thing that I would say is that along the way, whether I can be there or not, and I'm just in contact with the people, is I can be looking at the footage, and I can be kind of looking for the narrative questions that I would like to see asked and answered. Whether we can do it directly through interviews or whether we have to somehow find the footage and the scenes or cover the story in a way so that I feel like we're framing a set of ideas for an audience that is, sort of posing questions and answering them, which is always the needs of the narrative process. But I mean, I'm also learning so much, and so I really have so much respect for and appreciation for and enjoy the company of the people who are the dedicated documentarians who I have a chance to collaborate with. It's a great spirit. It's a life spark and an intelligence and a perspective that I find incredibly refreshing and inspiring. And I know it's finding that energy is sort of finding its way in what I'm doing on the scripted side as well.
Excellent. Great answer. Thank you for your time.
Go ahead.
Hi, thank you guys so much for everything that you do. The thing that really blows me away the most about what World Kitchen does is how there can be like a disaster happening, one day, and then somehow you guys are just there that night, seemingly feeding people. And could you just say a few words about like the logistics as far as like, did you guys just have a huge spreadsheet? So.
Yeah, I think you got a bit of a glimpse of it in the film, of course, with the Bahamas. And I'm going to turn this over to Sam in a minute to share, put you on the spot. So Sam runs our sort of emergency response arm of World Central Kitchen, sort of what I call our tip of the spear. So, when something happens in the world, within hours, if not minutes, Sam is headed to the airport to jump on a plane to get out there. He was the first one. He arrived in Poland on the border with Ukraine just hours after the first attacks began. He was in the Bahamas on the first flight that we were able to get out there. But it really is a team effort as well. I mean, we couldn't do what we do without this incredible team, some of whom you saw in the film, some of whom were here. I know Josh and Kyle Pounders and Grace are here. In the audience. Woo! But there's so many more. And the rest of our World Central Kitchen team that's here. It really is. As Jose pointed out to Ron as he pointed at the wall. We're only able to do what we do because of this amazing team that we have that supports each other, and part of that is how we can activate and move so quickly. But Sam, do you want to say a few words? Logistics.
Yeah, a lot of times it's you don't really question as to whether or not you should go. I think a lot of groups are, well, let's sit back and monitor and see what the situation is and then decide whether or not we do something about it. And our kind of ethos is really just start heading in that direction. It's better to be there and see firsthand. You can't learn enough from watching the news or reading reports from governments or anything like this. You got to go see firsthand. And so that's kind of always the knee-jerk reaction, is to start getting one of our colleagues or community members, to ground zero, wherever it may be. And we have a great team. I mean, it's not just us monitoring it. There's a huge group of people that are monitoring every earthquake, tsunami, like so many different types of crises around the world. So we're constantly monitoring that, and I have the privileged job of usually being the first one on the plane, and a lot of times we will just start even heading in that general direction. I can't tell you how many times that if we figure out exactly where we're going to go before we take off, then we're going to be late. So we'll just start getting in that direction. St. Vincent and St. Vincent, when that volcano erupted, I was midway. I was in Miami Airport when that erupted. We thought it was going to erupt soon, and it erupted. Okay, let's divert to Barbados. Nope, that just closed their airspace. And I had a great team. Ended up flying to Trinidad and Tobago. Got off the plane, and there was this guy wearing sandals and a little unbuttoned shirt that was my next pilot in a tiny little Cessna. And it was like, you know, you have these kind of coaches, and they fly into another island, and then our team had a speedboat waiting there, and it was just like this, you know, symphony of logistics that it really is a great team effort, and it is that kind of mentality of just start moving towards that direction, and you'll learn once you're there. And what is it? The urgency of now is one of the things that Jose says. So as soon as something happens, we've usually got somebody en route.
Yeah, the one last thing I'll add is that, you know, it's so critical for us to work with people on the ground. You know, we can be so much faster and more effective and efficient by tapping into the knowledge and resources that are there. As we saw the spike in COVID in Navajo Nation, it became the worst place in the world. I was talking to Sam, and I said, Sam, do you mind going out there? And he didn't hesitate and landed in Navajo. And we didn't really have a firm plan of what we were going to do or even understand what the needs were, how we can best serve the community, right? And that's when we get connected to people like Ollie, who are leading their communities, right? And we created this amazing network on the ground. And you know, really it wasn't about World Central Kitchen doing the work. It was about Ollie and the team that he built doing the work at the end of the day, and that we were simply there to provide, you know, some of our experience and expertise so that they could run with it. And he did for months and months and months and months, feeding so many people, so many families. And so that also is a big component of it. It's not just about what we do, but how do we stand side by side with the community that really makes the work possible.
I just have to tell a quick little story because I know you guys went to sort of cover the story, and then as you've said, you know, you put the camera down and started helping. Well, in Navajo, Walter here went, Walter Madison, one of the producers, went to cover, you know, what was going on, the activation in Navajo, and I was checking in and excited about it, and I said, so what did you get yesterday? And he said, well, yeah, we went in, and he was describing, and he says, then it got kind of busy, and I sort of didn't get to shoot much. You know, to me, as part of what's interesting about the film is it does show that, you know, that just the activity and the engagement is, it can be so rewarding and create its own kind of momentum. So I had to remind Walter that it was great that he was helping, but we also did have this film that we were responsible for making.
We also had 11 or I think 1,000 hours of archival, so you know we were pretty well covered at that point.
Go ahead.
Thanks so much for what you're doing. What struck me is how many hurricanes and how ferocious the hurricanes were. And I'm wondering if and how you're preparing for climate change, where we're going to have more and more of these disasters. And how are you funding? I mean, that was a whole big thing in Puerto Rico. It wasn't really clear how you get your funding.
Yeah, so on the funding question, we are almost entirely funded by individuals donating. We really don't receive any government funding. We got a little bit during COVID. You saw a little bit in the film where FEMA gave us a little bit of money to cover our costs in Puerto Rico, but for the most part, it's all donations, and 70% of it is small donations online. So it's very grassroots and powered by the people. But you're right, as the scale...
WCK.org. Right?
Thanks, Ron. As the scale of disasters get bigger and the needs get bigger, you know, we're finding ourselves also have to adapt to bigger challenges. I mean, we have teams even now, you know, both in terms of climate disasters, of constantly responding to fires or freezes or tornadoes in Kentucky. You know, the numbers are becoming astronomical, and it is going to be a challenge where at a certain point, you know, philanthropy can't save the day, right? And this is sort of, Jose alludes to this, or actually says it directly at the end of the film, right? That at a certain point, Congress has to pay for this. And that really is, I think, a next phase of our work is as we're looking towards the future, how can we, using the models and what we've built as a pilot, so to speak, as Sam mentions in the film, show the way forward, and hopefully knowing that the scale of what governments can and should be doing, can kind of take that on, right? I mean, in 2020, we were huge. I mean, we scaled up from 2019, when Dorian hit, where we thought we were huge, and then 2020 happened with COVID, and we became a $250 million organization, and $150 million of that went directly back into small restaurants and small businesses that were feeding their communities. So we had this mini stimulus before Congress even passed its restaurant stimulus. But we think that's a lot of money, right? And you might have seen in the news that Jeff Bezos gave Jose an award that came with it $100 million, which again seems like a lot of money. And then you think about Congress and our budget, looking at, or even the COVID-19 stimulus bills that are $1 trillion bills, right? We're talking trillions of dollars. And so ultimately, I think as we look at what we're facing in terms of what the needs are, at a certain point, we are going to have to find ways to pay for it. So hopefully, one of the things we're starting to do is really looking at policy. How do we start to shift policy? How do we both in emergency response, but also in food access and food equity and security and all of those issues, how do we make sure everybody has access? One of the things that we say is that we believe that food is a universal human right, and everybody should have access to food. So how do we start to change the systems? And we're in a place, and Jose's in a place now where he's got that voice. And one of the things I'm so grateful about this film and Ron's team and everybody that has helped tell this story is that we want to create more momentum and more power to affect that change. And so it is something that we're really focused on.
Glad to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last two, go ahead.
So the film makes me think of comfort food. It nourishes us, warms our heart, can make us cry. I think I can speak for all of us here that there's a lot of comfort food in this film, seeing so much great work being done. So I have kind of a bifurcated question specifically to the World Central Kitchen guys. When out and deployed, is there a particular meal that has become a comfort food for you when you are out there doing that? And to the whole team, what are some of the comfort food moments in the film for you that really particularly mean something to you? Not, favorite, that kind of thing, I don't think is what I'm after, but something that in particular, even if it was a little moment, a whole scene, from anybody who wants to answer.
Yeah, okay. I'll start on the comfort food piece. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is so important for us, as is talked about in the film, to prepare meals that are nutritious, healthy, hot, and something that people love to eat. And we change it depending on where we are, and our chefs adapt and they work with the communities, and everywhere we go, we're cooking different dishes. But I think if there is a universal, it's probably that sandwich that is that Jose talks about in the film, because it is that, in that early days when we don't know what's going to happen, when we need to jump on that helicopter and just get out there and reach people, it is that durable MRE, right? That ham sandwich and cheese and mayo and ketchup and on a good bread, and that's sort of the staple. And so we end up eating a lot of them because that's pretty much all we're running around, and then we don't want to eat the hot food because the hot food's for the people. But then when we're starving, we're like, okay, all right, grab a sandwich. So Sam and I will be driving through Guatemala and eating a sandwich as our only sustenance. So that's probably what is comforting, I would say. And then I'll turn it over to the team for.
For me, the moment at the end of the movie with Angel, the boy riding his bike and guiding, it kills me. I get emotional every time that I see it, because to me it's the bigger story, which is, look, everybody involved is there for a reason. Somewhere along the line, something touched them, reached them, taught them that work like this was worth doing. And we understand, through Jose's family and his backstory, a sense of what positioned him. And you just kind of see it happening to Angel. So to me, it's the knock-on effect of a program like this and what it can mean to us as human beings. So that was it for me.
Yeah, no, I would agree with Ron. I think that ending scene is so symbolic of just the idea of one meal, one plate at a time. And I think just to see a small child kind of being able to participate and point Jose and the team in a direction was really stunning.
I'm going to say the bean story, which I think is just, that's a great moment that I think was really important to capture, and it's something that we show right in the beginning, and are you guys still doing it? Okay. No, I think it's such what a difference that the organization would do something like that, because it's really, they're not just going there throwing bananas at people or whatever. They're trying to figure out what's going to actually give people comfort, as you said.
Well,
it's a quick shot for me, but it's in New York, and there's just a little boy that when they're handing the food out, he's jumping, and there's just genuine enthusiasm. And in being out there in the field with it, it's a representation of what you see a lot out there. But that one just really always stuck with me. He's jumping up and down. He's got this big smile on his face. It's a real quick moment, but it represents sort of, I think, the work that they do. Also, the cat getting the piece of meat.
Oh, yeah.
He's eating the meat.
I think when you do this, it's like an expression of love. You're handing, you're giving to somebody else. So for me, we talked a lot about let's maybe begin the film with the ham sandwich, something basic, something that was that Jose was passionate about. But I think that it's those scenes like the tamale, it's the community stand, the community cooking that is the comfort, because it's the person behind the food that's handing it to you as an expression of love. So I would say the tamale stand, make me 10,000, because that's to be boots on the ground and get people involved. But that comfort, that is like an expression of love. So I think that did it for me.
Hi, I guess two parts to the two answers to that. So in the movie, Jose talks about, very beginning, about the beans. He knows how to make the best beans in the world. However, when you're at that, you're in a certain location, there's a certain way they eat the beans. And with World Central Kitchen coming onto the Navajo Nation, they adjusted to how we eat and foods that we like. One is corn, steamed corn, and in Navajo it's neshjiji. And Zami, as you guys seen in the movie, we make sure we found local corn, and then we put that inside these food boxes that we were handed out, as you saw in the picture or in the movie, and that was like gold to the elders, to the Navajo people. The other part too, what I wanted to say was, for me, I'm still questioning why I'm up here with this panel. You have the director, the producers, the filmmakers. I feel like I'm representing every one of those volunteers out there.
Exactly.
If anything.
Exactly.
The volunteers that were out there, they should also be up here with me. And the movie just was impactful all the way around. So Ron, thank you, and the rest of the crew. From everyone out there, so thank you.
Last one, yes.
Thank you so much for this film. It was incredible. Ron Howard, addressing you directly. Thanks so much for the film.
Thank you.
I'm so blown away by World Central Kitchen, and I have been for a while, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Jose and working with him once, and he's truly one of the most generous, deeply, intensely generous and brilliant people on the planet. And so I'm just so curious how it is to work with him every day, Nate and all of you guys. We see in the film some of that, mercurial brilliance from him, and obviously he's so enthusiastic and real and authentic. So I'm just so curious what that's like for you.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say, I'll let them answer, but in a second. But so at one point, this is another part of the movie that I really love, where he's talking about maximizing the opportunity. There was one point where about partway through, and we were talking about getting teams, and part of my job was, even though Jose was supportive of the film, was actually to get him to slow down, let us interview him, let us put a microphone on him, and things like that. So so that was sort of the biggest bit of direction. But at one point, he called me and he had a couple of questions about where we were going and maybe why we weren't following a certain story. And I said, well, we already have so much footage, and I'm talking it through. And then his voice got a little bit more intense, and he was like, I just feel like we're not maximizing this opportunity. And I just felt it. And then he sort of checked himself and calmed down. So what's it like on a regular basis?
So backstage, as we were about to come up on stage, Sam turned to me and goes, "Wow, Jose's funny." It is. Jose has so much heart, right? And obviously we've now, I've known him now 12 years, and Sam, I randomly bumped into Sam at the Miami airport with Alicia as I was on my way down to Guatemala, and the two of them ended up jumped onto my flight down to Guatemala, and everything you saw up in there. And Sam hasn't left, and so I think obviously there is this draw to him and his passion and his vision for what he believes we can do together. And so at times there's intensity, as you saw in the film. There's a lot of intensity because we're tackling these really big issues, right? Right now we're in the middle of a war zone, and we have teams, all across, all around Ukraine and in Poland and in Hungary and Moldova and Romania, and it's just massive, right? And there's a lot that comes with that, and so it's heavy. And so there are those moments of intensity of like, we have this huge responsibility to do this work, and it's very serious. And so there's a lot of, just, we got to do this. Let's go, 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 go. But then there are these great moments, as you've seen in the film, of like, sitting down at a meal and Jose's laughing and telling stories, or 2 years ago, you saw the cruise ship in Oakland, and Sam and the team went out one night and decided they were all going to shave their heads. And Sam has not grown his hair back. But these moments, these sort of fun moments of like, there's moments of levity mixed into that, and moments of humanity, and just like, these moments to calm down. And Jose smokes his cigar and drinks a rum sour, and that really sort of balances it out. But yeah, it is, when you do this work, it can be a lot, and you're on the front lines, and it is very intense. And so, but he's somebody who, the last thing I'll say is he's somebody who doesn't really ever take no for an answer, right? And that's what makes him who he is. And sometimes that's just, he's too naive to know that that's it's not the way things are supposed to work, right? We got to Puerto Rico and people are telling him like, no, you can't do that. And he's like, yeah, but why? That doesn't make any sense. I'm just gonna go do it. But so for us, that challenges us as well, right? Where it's like, a default might be like, oh, that's too hard, we can't figure that out. We have to sort of take this improv approach of like, yes and, right? So if he says, all right, we gotta do this, we can say, yes, and first we'll do this, and then we'll do this, and then we'll get to that point you wanna get to. And so that's kind of, I think, that gives a little bit of but come volunteer and cook with us. And
I would love to. I'll be emailing you tonight, actually.
Perfect, please do.
Thank you so much.
Well, for us, we are so privileged to be able to present the world premiere of this film. The work is extraordinary, but being able for us to see the work and the process behind the work and to kind of understand that and take us in, it's so important. So really, thank you so much for this.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Great.
That will wrap it up for our red carpet coverage and Q&A coverage of We Feed People. I hope you enjoyed it. We have tons of other interviews online, so go check them out.